think the globalization of our attention is a problem. I think it's as much a structural issue as a personal one, and it affects the type of information we consume and how we react to that information. And I'll tell you what I mean by that. Hey, it's your girl Ahsante, helping you move consciously and creatively through life. So let's go. I think it's interesting that we've largely allowed ourselves to be governed by social media platforms. So much so that critics claim that any platform that moderates content is violating the right to free speech, even though the right to free speech in the US is something that the government can't prevent you from having. It doesn't apply to private companies. These online spaces feel like public spaces, even though they're not. We've let online content aggregation and search engines and social media feeds become so central in our information diet. I mean, I know for me, there was one point where social was my information breakfast, lunch, and dinner. We were having our hearty fill. And the frustrating law of social platforms is that the person with the most engagement wins. Not the person with the best argument or the most valuable thing to say or the expert opinion on the subject, just the most engagement. Likes, shares, clicks, views, time spent on the platform. And what you win is ad revenue, organic traffic and promotion within the platform, greater ability to monetize, and the ability to continue your operation financially. The advertising business model relies on grabbing as much attention as possible, and since we've all shifted our attention to social, publishers better get with the program if they want to survive. So publishers and news outlets are incentivized to create the most sensational, broadly appealing stories, which can lead to more coverage of national and international issues. The goal is to be as relevant and relatable to as many people as possible, and the outlet about your local county goings-on just isn't going to get as many clicks, which means it won't be as profitable, might not even be able to stay in business, especially because everyone's turning to the larger social internet to find out what's going on and to answer their questions. Despite the internet not being a custom solution with keen knowledge of what specifically is going on in your community, your county, the things that you can affect. And I've worked with local newsrooms to guide them in creating engaging videos to engage social-first audiences, and it's tough. That it's hard out here for a paper. Especially when you're competing for eyeballs, not only with the big national outlets that cover the huge stories, but also with entertainment and trends and memes. What's happening at your local city council meeting this week sometimes just isn't as sexy. So that affects the quality of the information that we see, but then there's also the quality of our reaction to that information. It's the lure of participation. You too could be getting the clout and likes and shares if you have the hotter than hot take. Not only is there pressure to know what's going on across the world, but also to have an opinion on it and to confidently express that opinion as if you know what you're talking about. Even in unfolding situations where we don't know the details of what's going on, and you are not a reporter. This is typically what live news coverage is for. We don't need spin or snark. We just need to know what's actually happening. And since public opinion comes in 280 character bites and 60-second loops, not only are you not getting the news that you actually need, you're not getting any context either. Forget the details of what's actually going on. What are people saying about it? What's the tea? The latest is just a refresh away. Always something new, enticing, exciting, imperative, beckoning us to constantly check back lest we miss something, tempting us with an endless stream of updates, designed to capture and hold our attention at all costs. It's engaging, it's entertaining, but is it valuable? Is the content valuable enough to warrant so much of our attention? And is our response valuable enough to warrant our engagement? What gets the most views is not necessarily what provides the most value. There are plenty of videos covering the top 10 facts about insert random weird thing here that can get a lot of attention and views, but not have you walking away with a greater sense of understanding or a larger message or meaningful impact. So what is valuable as far as information? Well, information you can act on, information you can do something with, news you can use. And having a robust free press is how people have the information they need to govern themselves in a democracy, to make decisions about what to vote for and what to engage with and what to reject. But I hear so little about civic engagement, especially outside of the context of voting, that it seems like the media environment has become so divorced from that initial purpose. Journalism and media, which social media is a part of, has gotten to be about who can tell the most universally interesting story rather than the most specifically actionable or important one, which works well for entertainment, but not so much for democracy. People are limited in what they can act on. You have to work within your sphere of influence. So to be an engaged citizen, you have to consume stories and information relevant to your sphere of influence. Local news outlets and community bulletins are supposed to be stewards of what we particularly need to know and what we can affect. And I think a lot of us have lost sight of that. Seeing what your neighbors are up to, figuring out ways to improve your shared spaces, tying the neighborhood together. That's the role of local journalism. If you're just focused on the big national or international story, it's easy to feel depressed, anxious, overwhelmed because the big bad is happening and there's nothing you can do about it. At least not at the scale you're focusing on. It leaves the "so what can you do?" question unanswerable. But there are things happening in your local community that you can do something to directly affect. Being more and more globally connected can leave us feeling more and more individually isolated because you're focused on connecting to the big headline, the international conversation, and not focused on connecting with the people around you. That sense of community, of genuine connection, of supporting the people who we live with, of our own agency to affect our specific circumstances and to affect larger circumstances through our local actions, that's what we lose when we globalize our attention. Now, I'm not suggesting that you should completely stop paying attention to national and international news or to social media. We do need to bear witness to the events around us so that if there are ways for us to get involved and support our fellow humans, we can be aware of that. And so we can know how our national leaders are responding to world events and hold them accountable. And of course, if you're part of the national media or you're a national political figure, then paying close attention to this stuff all the time is part of your job. But otherwise, if you spend hours scrolling through hot takes on Twitter or streaming 24-hour cable news pundits who are there to infuriate and shock you so you keep watching, then you're going to be focusing your energy in a place that, will make you feel out of control. When you do come to social media, which isn't all bad, I am after all coming to you from YouTube, when you get here, there should be reliable, fact-based content that's engaging and high quality. Obviously, I'm a content creator and I think social platforms are incredibly valuable. I also see how the current model is sucking up all the air in the room. When we normalize not paying for content, we don't allow quality content producers the room to breathe, the resources they need to exist and pay their bills and produce the content that's of quality to live on the platforms. We lose the local news and the small publishers and the producers who are unwilling to stoke outrage for clicks. And we're left with the people who yell the loudest and who can get us to yell back at them. The earth is flat! Birds aren't real! Ugh, what a headache. We don't have to be constantly jacked into our feeds, and we don't have to react, especially not online. Sometimes it's fine to just let the experts talk, to follow the coverage provided by journalists on the ground, rather than the clips with the grabbiest spin. And there's beauty in talking to other people in person, to have a dialogue that's not a diatribe, to be in community with other people, be a part of local organizations, and to learn from folks who know the nuances of your specific environment. I think my urge to step back from the reactivity is part of what led me to get most of my news now via audio. Radio is great because it's designed to be consumed for just a few minutes at a time, maybe 15 minutes or 30 as you're on your way to work, and then you're done. Podcasts are another method I enjoy. They're platform agnostic, and most podcast feeds are pretty simple and chronological, so producers don't worry about manipulating or exaggerating their content to gain clicks and please an algorithm. And once a podcast episode is over, it's over. Go do something else and tune in next week. Oh, and by the way, there's no comment section, so there's no need for you to add your 2 cents or your hot take or to feel pressure to demonstrate what side you're on. It's just an opportunity to listen to the experts. And if you listen to something like Consider This from NPR, I will never stop plugging public media, then you get a deep dive into one big national story and a look at the local stories within your area. And another benefit of public media is that they aren't locked into a profit motive. They have multiple funding sources, including viewers like you, and they don't rely as heavily on advertising, so they don't have to create content that's attention-grabby. They can put out what's useful and valuable. There's a place for scrolling through takes on Twitter and absorbing public reaction to current events. I mean, when the tea is hot, it's piping hot. But I think it's even more important to have a truly informed and meaningfully engaged public. And to that end, I hope we can all work towards having a well-rounded information diet. If you liked this video, then I have plenty others on social awareness and personal development, so be sure to subscribe. You can sign up for my email newsletter so that we stay connected regardless of the algorithm. And if you want to help me to continue making quality content, then you can support my work on Patreon. As always, remember to live spiritedly and think creatively, and I will see you next time.